You're making Victor the managing director? Are you serious? I am the reason this place even has a pulse. My voice, usually measured and calm, cracked with disbelief as the words tore through the quiet tension of the family office. The scent of pine and polished wood, once comforting, now felt suffocating. I stood opposite my parents, the newly signed plaque for the Mountain Crest Lodge's grand reopening sitting innocently on the desk. Every dollar, every late night, every ounce of my professional credibility was wrapped up in that plaque. My father, Howard, wouldn't even meet my gaze. He nervously adjusted the collar of his suit. Elena, please, your brother needs this opportunity. He has a fresher perspective. Fresher perspective? I scoffed. He has an outstanding credit card bill and a history of bailing on every job within 6 months. I just brought this business back from the brink of total collapse. Who negotiated the multi-million-dollar loan extension? Who overhauled the archaic booking system? Who got us that feature in Luxury Travel Monthly? It wasn't Victor, was it? And then there he was, my younger brother Victor, leaning against the doorframe with that infuriatingly lazy smirk. Looks like someone can't handle a little friendly competition, sis. Mom and Dad know the future of this place requires a visionary, not a glorified accountant obsessed with thread counts. My mother, Lydia, walked over and placed a placating hand on my arm, the gesture doing nothing but making my skin crawl. Honey, you're the engine, the details person. Victor is the face. He's the natural-born leader. You're simply too methodical. I pulled my arm away. My name is Elena Cole, and at 35 years old, I had just watched my family hand the keys to the kingdom, a kingdom I personally rescued from financial ruin, to the person least qualified to run it. This wasn't just a business slight. This was a spectacular, soul-crushing act of familial betrayal, and what followed would be a lesson in consequence that my brother and my parents would never forget. To understand the sheer depth of this insult, you have to know the history of the Mountain Crest Lodge. It was my grandfather's pride, a sprawling, rustic resort built back in the 60s, a place woven into the fabric of our family identity. For me, it wasn't just a business. It was the scent of my childhood. But legacy doesn't pay bills. 8 months prior, I was thriving in London, a high-flying operations manager for a prestigious international hotel group. Then came the call. Dad sounding defeated, admitting the lodge was weeks away from foreclosure. Years of passive management and refusal to adapt had left it hemorrhaging money, buried under bad debt and dragging a 2-star rating through the mud. I didn't just quit my job. I liquidated my entire life. I sold my apartment in Chelsea, poured every penny of my savings into immediate debt reduction, and moved back to the quiet, judgmental small town. The lodge was a horror show. The boilers were rusting relics, the carpet smelled faintly of mildew and failure, and the online reviews were brutal, the kind of reviews that make you consider changing your name. I became a one-woman army. I personally supervised the 3-month renovation, negotiating steep discounts from suppliers I knew from my London network. I worked 18-hour days, redesigning the guest experience from the initial booking to the final goodbye. I implemented a new high-efficiency revenue management system that immediately boosted occupancy and average daily rates. I wasn't just saving the business, I was transforming it. I created a vision of luxury alpine authenticity, and the market responded instantly. The bookings soared. The profits stabilized. We were debt-free and cruising. I did all of this while Victor was exploring his passion for artisanal coffee in Seattle. Yet, here we are, the prodigal son, Victor, who contributed nothing but vague enthusiasm and a handful of unsolicited suggestions about getting younger with the branding, is now placed above me. They valued his potential over my proven results. They mistook my methodical dedication for a lack of imagination, and my brother's empty charisma for leadership. The staff meeting that night, where they officially announced Victor's promotion, was a funeral for my loyalty. My team, the dedicated housekeepers, the brilliant chef, the front desk staff I had personally trained, looked at me with pity and shared frustration. Victor's reign began the next morning, and it was a catastrophe. His first brilliant move, he decided the detail-oriented approach was too expensive. He unilaterally canceled the contract with the premium linen company I had sourced, opting for a cheaper, scratchy alternative. He then fired the talented head chef, convinced he could save money by simplifying the menu to generic pub grub. When I tried to intervene, showing him the direct correlation between our fine dining reviews and our high-paying clientele, he just waved me off. It's about scale, Elena. Volume. We need to be more populist. Within 2 weeks, the reviews started a terrifying immediate slide. Guests were complaining about the uncomfortable beds and the institutional food. 2 of my best front desk managers, who had loyally worked through the darkest days, gave their notice, citing a lack of direction and Victor's condescending attitude. I was stuck in a managerial purgatory. I had the knowledge and the work ethic, but zero authority. I was just the details person, watching the structure I built weaken with every reckless decision he made. It was during a heated argument with Victor about the new flawed staff scheduling that I walked out, needing air. I drove aimlessly until I stopped at a forgotten property on the less traveled side of the valley, the old Aspen Peak Inn. It had been abandoned for 5 years, a decaying eyesore nestled on a prime piece of land with arguably better views of the slopes than the Mountain Crest Lodge. A weathered for sale sign stood stubbornly in the overgrown weeds. I sat there, the mountain wind cold against my face, and thought about my life. I had given up everything to save their legacy, only to be tossed aside. The only way to truly defeat the cycle of disrespect was not to beg for my old job back, but to prove my capability on an entirely different stage. The moment of clarity hit me like a physical punch. I wasn't leaving my hospitality game. I was changing the game entirely. I pulled out my phone. The following year was a blur of relentless, focused work. I didn't just renovate. I conceptualized an entirely new, ultra-luxury experience. The Vindicator wouldn't compete on volume. It would compete on exclusivity. I stripped the old building down to its beams, installing geothermal heating and floor-to-ceiling windows to capitalize on the views. I personally had hunted the best talent in the region, many of them disillusioned former employees of Mountain Crest Lodge, including the former head chef and the 2 front desk managers who had quit. They understood the mission. This wasn't just a hotel. It was a declaration. Word of the Vindicators spread like wildfire through the hospitality community, mostly due to my aggressive and expensive social media campaign focusing on the Phoenix Rising narrative. The local rumor mill worked overtime. Some town elders, friends of my parents, muttered about my spiteful vengeance. My family tried the guilt approach again. "How can you divide the town like this, Elena? It's bad for business," Mom cried over the phone. I just calmly replied, "It's not about division, Mom. It's about letting the market decide who the real leader is." Meanwhile, Victor and the Mountain Crest Lodge were a slow-motion train wreck. Their rating dropped to a dismal 1.5 stars. Guests who had previously lauded my changes were now leaving scathing reviews about the threadbare towels and the mystery meat in the bistro. I heard through my network that they were panicking, slashing rates so low they were barely covering operational costs, trying to stem the bleeding of cancellations. Victor, in his characteristic arrogance, blamed local hostility and unfair competition. He never once considered the simple truth: good management is everything. The grand opening of the Vindicator was timed strategically for the peak winter season, exactly 14 months after I'd been passed over. It was an invitation-only gala covered by the same luxury travel monthly that had featured the lodge a year prior. The Vindicator was immaculate. The lobby was a masterpiece of slate and reclaimed wood, featuring a 2-story waterfall and a glassed-in library. Every room was a suite, complete with a private hot tub overlooking the slopes. We were booked solid for the entire season before we even opened the doors. The energy was electric. My family showed up uninvited, drawn by the media presence and the buzz they couldn't ignore. I saw them standing awkwardly near the entrance, dressed stiffly, looking out of place amidst the chic, moneyed clientele. Victor was the first to approach, his usual smugness replaced by a toxic mix of panic and rage. "This is disgusting, Elena. You're leveraging our family's name, exploiting our connections just to spite us?" I met his gaze, utterly calm, enjoying the weight of my success. Spite? No, Victor. This is business. I built something beautiful and functional. I used the money I earned, the experience I earned, and the credibility I earned. You were given a profitable business on a silver platter and you choked. That's not my fault. That's called incompetence. My father, Howard, finally stepped forward, his eyes wide open as he took in the scene, the magazine editor interviewing my head chef, his former head chef, and the sound of champagne corks popping. "Elena, we need to talk. The bank has given us 30 days on the lodge loan. We can't make the next payment. Victor, he's lost control." I smiled, a genuine, powerful smile of total vindication. "I know. My financial advisor is the one who flagged your impending default. He also handles my new loan for the Vindicator. Tell you what, Dad, I'll buy the lodge." They stared at me, dumbfounded. "Yes, I will purchase the Mountain Crest Lodge, take on all its liabilities, and save it from insolvency. But not for sentimental reasons. I'm buying it to be a dedicated, cost-effective staff housing facility for the Vindicator's employees. The old lodge, the family legacy, will serve as the support staff quarters for the hotel I built after you dismissed me." The look on Victor's face was the purest form of earned regret I have ever witnessed. My parents looked shattered, realizing the monumental error of choosing a favored child's ego over a capable daughter's expertise. The final irony was complete. Their legacy was saved, but only as a necessary accessory to my superior creation. The local newspaper headline the next day read, "The Vindicator Triumphs. Cole's sister bails out failing family hotel, rebrands as staff quarters." In the weeks that followed, the sale was finalized. I didn't speak to Victor again. He left town shortly after, avoiding the inevitable confrontation. My parents tried one last time to appeal to my sense of family, asking if I would at least let them manage the staff quarters. I politely declined and hired a non-family manager. The lodge, renamed the Crust Annex, is now a clean, functional space for my valued employees. And the best part, every day the staff of the Vindicator drives past the old family sign on their way to work at the place where true leadership is valued. My parents still call, but the dynamic has changed entirely. They now call for advice, not to dismiss me. They finally see the value of being detail-oriented, but their approval is no longer my currency. The true revenge wasn't in crushing the old hotel, but in demonstrating that my value was transferable. They chose to discard a builder, a visionary, and a leader. And in doing so, they created their toughest, most successful competitor. They taught me the greatest lesson. The most powerful success is the one you build for yourself, proving that your worth is non-negotiable. I didn't ruin their hotel. Victor did. I simply gave him the opportunity to see his failure reflected in my ultimate success. And that is the sweetest revenge of all.